Good afternoon and welcome to Hangar. Today we are presenting two different things. From one side, we are doing the presentation of an issue of the journal Arnodes. And on the other hand, we are also doing the first public event of Hac Te, that is the hub of art, science and technology in Barcelona. We are streaming from Hangar. I am Luis Nacenta, director of the project. And for us, it's a joy, it's a privilege to have the chance to host the first public appearance of this hub. That it's a project that it's exhilarating and exciting for us. We are happy to be a part of this project. It's important to mention also the role that Hangar will be playing in this collective endeavor. We are a center dedicated to art production, and to art research. But it's very important for the project, and it's been like this from the beginning. We have a strong involvement from the political and aesthetical point of view in the hybridization of art with other practices, and very especially with technology and with science. So this is what today is about, together with the pandemic and together with the research and other issues. I don't want to speak any longer. I'm just thrilled to start a conversation. So welcome to everyone. Welcome to Hangar. Welcome to Arnodes. Welcome to Hac Te. And I pass the mic to Paul Zina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Luis. We are also so happy to be here doing the first event of this Hac Te. And so we will have the opportunity to reflect a little bit about arts and science in the time of pandemic. And we wanted to do it together with the guest editors of this special issue of Arnodes, Arnodes, which is an online journal that we established almost 20 years ago. And we never thought that we would have to do a special issue in the middle of the pandemics. So, and this also has happened the year that we are 20 years old. No? So what we're going to do today is to reflect on arts and science in the time of pandemics within the context of this special issue of Arnodes, and also within the context of this BioFriction project that is leading, that Hangar is leading. And both projects are related. They have a clear connection that I hope that we will be able to talk a little bit about while we discuss. And also there's going to be a performance of Mayra Sitali from Mexico. No? So what we wanted to do is to do this first act, first event of Hac Te, as a way to reflect on the current situation, and also the need to reflect on about this current situation from the art and science side of it. No? I'm going to explain a little bit what's Hac Te. Hac Te, this is the new logo that we have just presented right now. This is the first time that you're able to see this logo. This is a hub for art, science, and technology that we presented publicly some months ago, and we are just developing the first steps. What we want to do is to reinforce the connections between art, science, technology in Barcelona within the context of the international networks that are currently working in this area. So what we wanted to do is a space, a network, a hub that connects all those different fields, all those different interdisciplinary fields, but also that connects different types of institutions that are related to the research, to scientific and technological research, but also to education and information, but also production and diffusion. So what we wanted to do is to, within these 9 institutions that involve universities like UOC, Open University of Catalonia, or Polytechnical University, the Fair, Barcelona Fair, which is also involved, the scientific centers like Photonics Science Institute or the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, or networks of research centers from Barcelona, like the BIST, the Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology, the Barcelona Tech City, which is a network of startups, and also Hangar, the place where we are here right now, and New World Foundation, another space for diffusion and production too. And what we wanted to do is to open up the program with this particular event as a way to reflect on what does the arts and science technology connections means in this context, and to learn from the experience through the special issue of Arnodes and through the project that they have been dealing here in Hangar, which is also a project that can reflect both in the content, because it's related with the current situation, but also in the form, how this project has been affected by. So without any more delay, I would love to present a little bit and move on to the next step of this presentation, that will be the performance by the artist Mayra Citlali Rojo, that she's from Mexico, and she will be able to do a little performance that she has planned for us. So please, if you're able to connect with Mayra in Mexico, it will be great. It will be great to see it. Thank you.
VG pour lei de c'est à perdre bron 6. J'ai très le peu court, per fripocure, une NR roule.
Ist mir wichtig. Ich muss mich mehr um ihn kümmern.
À in brevant. R de son oie jusqu'à co. VG po lei te
Cecil, sin ninguna chance del movimiento desplazado, del movimiento hacia afuera, una pequeña y limitada imperfección de las plantas de casa. Se retuercen sobre sí mismas, se estiran, se ensanchan en la quietud del silencio, de ese tiempo milenario del sin tiempo, un moviéndose pequeño, constante, como el zumbido de la mosca, casi molesto, casi abyecto. Del rabillo del ojo se mira impermanente la memoria de las plantas, una flor que se tatúa en la carne brevemente. La batalla que se libra a muerte, el golpe de lo ínfimo.
tell you how you're going to use it. My name's Sebastian. I'll be your director today. I'm going to just tell you where you got to stand in the room so you get the best use of the light. If we open the windows and open the curtains, the last rays of the sunset will come through at just the right angle to make you look beautiful, and I will turn on the camera and film you doing what I tell you to do. My name is Sebastian. My name is Sebastian.
Perfecto. Gracias. Thank you, Maria. So now it's time for questions. If there are any questions regarding the performance that Mayra just showed us, thank you very much. There are some commentaries, but I guess that maybe we should try to find some questions here on site, or otherwise through the streaming. I would just say hi to those that are looking at us through the streaming. And if they have any question, they can just post it in the website. And we will read it here aloud, so we can let Mayra answer. Well, if not, I have a question that is quite obvious. But the question is, in which sense, if it's not in all the senses, you have been affected by the current situation of the pandemic. You were supposed to do a residency in here, but you finally did like a virtual residency, and the result that we have just seen is the whole process, how it has developed, and how you have dealt with that current situation at your home. So I just wanted to ask you and tell us a little bit about how have you how have you lived this virtual residency that you have made in the context of this of this BioFriction project that you were presented. You presented an article also in our notes that was quite good for contextualizing your work and your ideas. But I would love to know a little bit more about the experience doing your virtual residency. How have you dealt with that? Yes, Mayra? This is the first question for you.
Okay, thank you. Good night. Thank you for the invitation, for my participation in this discussion. Yes, the first difference with the pandemic times was the change for my resident remote. And for me, the concept remote change only change with the remote distance and remote time too, because in the pandemic times and all the experience in my home, in the domestic universe, is the change for the time, you know, because it's the closer, more time, closer myself. I changed the concept for my project and work with the idea domestic in the process for the evolution too with the plants. And I think about my closer universe in my home, the element change like the plants because I start my research with the history, my home plants, and I select two plants, especially the San Paulia and the what is the African plant, and other plant was the succulent plant. Two plants. The origin geographic was the Tanzania, and I start two discourses. The first was the history of the plants, and the second storytelling about how I have other relationship with my plants, and writing, I thinking about the impossible transplants, impossible grafts, because I work with the concept, the relationship with the language too. You see in the first video, and well, the experience was very interesting, but frustrating too, because I resolve in my home with my resource, but never is same. Know the place, in this case Finland, and relationship with the other personal relations with the other science or artists.
Thank you very much, Mayra. We have another question from the website, from the streaming. Okay, this is Rana Wasef that asks, hi, what was the main purpose behind that experimentation? And also I saw some microscopic images. So how did you use them, and as in what context? Thanks.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, for me, the first change for my artistic research and experimentation was, for one hand, the plants and the technology. I take the metaphor about the electricity and energy and human between plants and other dispositive. My first relationship with the language was how understand the plants, how understand my body the first time, because when I see the slowly time when my experimentation, my crops for the plants, I see really slowly, and for me my body was other sensation, other experience with the space, and other touch with the plants, the textures, and for me the process, the movement was very interesting, with the idea at the shape for the plants, and the movement, the sessile condition is like is the movement sessile don't is walking or displacement is in the same place, and the movement is more expansive because it's more twist, it's more different condition for the movement, don't necessarily displace in for the other place, you know.
Okay, thank you very much, Myra. Okay, so now it's time. I think we don't have any more questions, so I think it's time to move on and to go to the round table. Okay, so the round table is we have here with us Laura Benitez. She's the director of the BioFriction project. Okay, and next is Anushka Scudi. She's a biologist. She used to do scientific research in centers, but right now it's involved in this BioFriction project also. Luis Nacenta, it's also you already know, and also Eric Berger, Eric Berger from Helsinki. She will be there. Okay, hi Eric. Okay, so she's a director of the BioArt Society, and she is also part of this project BioFriction. And both Eric and Laura were the guest editors of this Arnodes journal that we published some couple of months ago, that you were able to read it and to download it if you haven't done it yet. There are 106 pages of articles, research articles, written by artists, scientists, theorists, dealing with this art and science in the times of pandemic. So I will just pose some questions regarding the main subject of this meeting. And well, the 27th issue of Arnodes dealt with this global pandemic situation we are still living right now, but it was made from the perspective of the arts. What can the arts do for this in this context of this global pandemic? No, because we already have been all aware about the absolute necessity of the science in this development of this research in order to fight the pandemic global situation. No? But could you please tell us a little bit more about why the arts are also necessary in this context? This was one of the main subjects of the special issue. Which are the roles of the arts in this situation? Which is the role of the arts? How did the different authors also of this special issue deal with all these questions? So I would just start with this question. It's a basic question, but I guess that's why we are all here to reflect on that from our perspective. So if you please.
Okay. I'm starting. Okay. Well, thank you so much in the first place for inviting us to this event today, but also for inviting us to be the guest editors of this issue. So our pleasure. And it's been great also collaborating with Eric Berger in this let's say, role of guest editor. So regarding your questions, I would say that in the first place, it's difficult to know if we refer to the question of the necessity of the arts in this context. I would say that, well, I wouldn't say that it's a question of necessity, but it's an opportunity, to claim once again that artistic practices not only generate knowledge, but also generate transversal knowledge. So moreover, the kind of practices that are taking place in BioFriction, and that, for example, some of them are reflected in this issue, do so in a situated way. So I think that for me, that's important. And on the other side, I would say that from my perspective, in terms of the role of the arts within this situation, within pandemic, to say so, I would say that, at least from my perspective, artistic practices don't have a specific role, at least not an a priori role, but certainly they facilitate in a way, they facilitate, they care for, they generate meeting places and encounters, if you want to say so. So for me, that's a potential. Not a specific role, at least not a specific, not a kind of an a priori specific role. So I would say that nor something that we can demand to artistic practices or something we should take for granted in artistic practices per se. So I think that artistic practices are as usual, as have been doing since the beginnings of the artistic practices, since ever. They are like opening new cracks, new opportunities, new encounters, or different encounters, alternatives, and that's a potential, but maybe not in a specific role. That would be my first answer.
Yes, thanks. So good afternoon, and first of all, of course, I want to thank the organizer for inviting me, and particularly the people of Hangar, because as you know, I have been working here for several months, and it has been really a pleasure, and I have learned a lot also. So from my experience, I would say that scientists are urged, particularly in the time of pandemics, to provide some the right answers. So maybe from this exchange I have been practicing with the artists, I can say that maybe the artists provide a way to point out the black boxes, to generate maybe new ideas, and also to help to generate the good questions, I would say. And also to put the context of this research in a larger framework, or in a larger big view, we'll say something like this. So maybe this is what I want to say, yes.
I could continue maybe.
Well, if the question is why art is necessary, I mean, I would, in this case, I would say it is. I would say it is essential. But, and I'll try to explain why. I remember conversations with some colleague artists, some artists close to Hangar. For instance, I remember a conversation with Antonio Gagliano, that's right behind that camera. So artists working in things. And I remember the description of the artist saying, the artist is a tourist of knowledge. So it has a superficial approach to knowledge, but a good tourist is the one that goes to all the places. So, of course, this is a metaphor. And I think it's this tourist of knowledge is particularly necessary right now because we need a tool to make sense of the situation we are in. And I think it's fair to say that science, in this very difficult crisis, what we have is we obey the science. So science is the knowledge to which we don't really have direct access, but in which are based a series of regulations that we are forced to follow. And I don't know, I mean, I think in many cases, or at least in my case, it's not that I am willing to follow that regulation, but I'm not exactly aware of the details of why am I following those situations. And I think we are lost. I think there is a lot of anxiety. And in reading the Arnodes issue, you get again and again the question, how do this very strange situation go? What is going on? And I think from a human perspective, from a living perspective, it's important that superficial, touristic, holistic approach of how can I make sense of the situation immediately today, not in 10 years' time. So I think this is one approach that art is particularly privileged to do. And I think this is at least one reason why art is necessary in this situation.
Okay, thanks. And Eric, what about you from Finland, from Helsinki?
Yeah, good evening. I first want to thank Mayra for her performance, and I hope that we are able to welcome her in the future to Finland, that this was basically just the start of something, not just a short intermezzo. Also, I want to thank, of course, Laura for her collaboration. It was really fantastic to work with her. And I want to actually answer this question by quoting one of the articles I want to start to answer by quoting one of the articles, namely Staying in Touch, the case study of artistic research during the COVID-19 lockdown. Behind this dry title is actually a really fantastic fictional, futuristic account of the post-pandemic, and I invite everybody to read it. But it says here, we had to become experts in bioterror, experts in biosecurity, experts in biotechnology, experts in anything that could allow us to be prepared to guarantee a sense of psychological and physical security and to guarantee the transcendence that is required to feel when you come together in an art space. And though the quote is now cited a little bit out of context, I think still it points towards something very specific, especially when you an artist like many of us in this kind of BioFriction project, working with microbiology, then you bring some sort of knowledge about those kind of invisible creatures, which are the cause of the pandemic, with you, and you also bring some kind of competence and some experience from the laboratory when you work with those kind of organisms. So you have an idea of what could be out there. You have an idea what is a sterile environment, what is incubation, what is containment, what is sterilization, and all these kind of let's say this practical knowledge, this practicalities from the laboratory, they kind of there starts a dichotomy between the one with the knowledge and the artist. And like one central question which I discussed with a friend last spring was also, and I cited it also in the intro, like how can art be transgressive in times when boundaries are important to human society for the well-being of others and our own. So on the one hand, we basically can act as those with knowledge and can basically take care about our environment, encourage people to participate in those rituals of washing hands and of taking care and of using masks. On the other hand, we also kind of still know that it's important that the power of art is in the transgression, and that this transgression can still happen. But what actually was happening was that we had to close for some time our art spaces, that we had to shift things online. So we found ourselves really in a situation which was really difficult to navigate. So maybe this is a start.
Thank you. Okay, okay, BioFriction itself is a case study of because you have dealt with the content itself was related with the whole global situation, because it's BioFriction, because it was friction, but also the form itself got affected by this current situation, and you had to deal with these changes, this global epidemiological problems, but also crisis, and also the socio-economical crackdown, but also many other things that we have been used to live with during this year. No? So I guess there is a lot of friction in the project, in the context, but also on the bios, and you are a clear example of that. So I just wanted to reflect about this connection between the content and the form within your project, because it's a case study itself about how to do arts in the context of this global situation. But also the project itself also was planned originally to deal with this BioFriction, these frictions of bio. No? Tell us a little bit more about the project, because this is part of an European project. This is an European project that involves several centers in Europe, where artists, scientists, practitioners from different parts of the world get together and work together. And you had to change the whole setup, and you had to manage the whole situation, and also move your from your original point of departure, and to adapt to the circumstances that, in your case, was also connected with this friction of the bios. Let's say, tell us a little bit more, please.
Okay, so I take the opportunity to share with you a couple of details of BioFriction with the ones who don't know, at least not yet, BioFriction as a project. So BioFriction as we already said, is a European project led by Hangar, but in collaboration with BioArt Society in Finland and Cultivamos Cultura in Portugal and Kersnikova in Ljubljana in Slovenia. So, and also it's we have as an associated partners Anthropo, that the ones who used to be Bandit Mash in Bourges, and Biomedical Research Institute of Barcelona, the IRB. So as a project, BioFriction, as you already said, is funded by Creative Europe, what means that we have some resources in order to do practices, activities. No, it's not, let's say, is not, for example, an academic research project, no, to say so. So the thing is that BioFriction, for example, the title is a wordplay, is a combination of biology, bios, and biotech, and the potential of fiction, but also artistic practices as surfaces of friction, no? So the aim, the purpose is to generate these encounters, no? These, let's say, hybrid encounters and experimental encounters in between artists, researchers, scientists, I don't know, theoreticians, activists. So yeah, the thing is a big, it's a big thing, because it's not just for the obvious reasons, no? BioFriction within the framework of Creative Europe is focused on transnational mobility. So you can imagine what that means in the context of pandemic. But beyond that, what I think that is really, really interesting is that BioFriction as a project was conceived precisely to work on this kind of topics, no? To work on what's the potential of biotechnology, who has access to biotechnologies, who is allowed to do biotech, what kind of ethical, bioethical problems, political, biopolitical, necropolitical problems we are facing, no? With these technologies, with some different areas of contemporary biology as well. What happens, no, with when artists are, for example, doing experimental practices with what we say and call biomaterials, and that itself is a problem, because then we are instrumentalizing these other agents as materials. So these kind of questions, no? So within this context of pandemic, BioFriction turned itself like the big BioFriction, no? The BioFriction itself. So I would say that in a way it's been, for sure, it's been and is being super challenging, no? Because there was some activities that we've been, you know, like re-articulating, rethinking, rescheduling all the time, no? As everyone these days. But what I think that it's been really, really interesting as a, let's say, case study itself, no? It's almost like a inner meta case study, is that some biopolitical questions that were there in the beginning turned, you know, like in a pretty pragmatical way, you know, like opening up like new questions and new needs in a way, in order to meet all together, maybe not in person, sometimes online, but to rethink what is going on right now, no? In this kind of deep now, in a way, no? Deep present. So I would say that that would be one of the most interesting things within this bio.
Thanks.
Yes, I just want to point out from my experience, because I'm just translating what I have left. And I would like to talk about one thing that is the territories where the interaction between the artist and myself have occurred. And I can discriminate two phases. One phase that lasted like about 5, 6, even more months, and it has been done by internet, via Jitsi. And why I'm talking about territories is because we could exchange in a neutral territory without any role assigned. No? We were at home, we were relaxed, and we were people just exchanging and thinking about their projects. And I want really to thank the collective Kin Lab and also Vanessa Lorenzo, because it has been a pleasure to work with them. And as I was talking, I think that we schedule regular meetings, so we could progressively schedule, because the second part of the project, of course, was to assist them during their residency, and it was a short time. It was only 1 month of residency. So I have also to think about how we could start a project within this time. And in the context, and again, I'm talking about a new territory that was the wet lab. That is, I'm coming from a background that is a standard biolab, and I was confronted to learn. So I will talk later on maybe about, because it's something you want to point out, about the processes of co-learning. Because for me, it was a complete new territory. So and also maybe I can say here that usually in this kind of interaction between artists, technologists, and scientists, these interactions occur in academical institutions or in the scientific institution where artists perform some residency in this scientific institution. But in this case, I'm a scientist that has been trained as a person that has been trained as a scientist, but now I'm not doing science in terms of research. So I'm out of an institution, and so I say that because of the imaginary that we have of what is a scientist, no? And I was a scientist that entered in an artistic institution. And for me, it was the first time I was visiting a center, and I had to identify rapidly the codes and to see the differences between these codes in this particular institution that is a specific institution compared to what already I knew. So yes, I think that these two phases were clearly differentiated, and I think that the first phase, where we have a neutral territory, has been really an important point to the good development of the project.
And what about you?
Of course, the impact of the situation in the project has been huge, as you can imagine, and this has been already mentioned. But in a way, it also allowed us to discover or to rediscover some of the strong points of the thought that was behind the intention, of the initial intention of the project. I think that was something really special. In a way, and I remember the first stages of BioFriction, and when we set up the team, and I remember it was very important to this idea of, okay, let's, how to say that? I mean, BioFriction, it's not a philosophy project, but we invited a philosopher, Laura Benitez, to lead the project. And later on, we discovered that was not such a bad idea, because BioFriction depends strongly on the link of the content with the process of researching that content. I mean, there is a strong entwinement of the how and the what. And then, so, and this is very important. I mean, it's very important to stress, and that was written in the beginning. And I want to acknowledge the work of Laura, and also I want to acknowledge the work of Marta Gracia, that had a strong involvement in the conception of the project, and of course, of all the partners, because that consortium was a strong consortium. It was not just about the formal collaboration, but we were all involved in that. And later on, we discovered that that idea in the beginning of the how and the what are almost the same thing. It was a strong position from which to come to terms with the pandemic. Then when the situation we all know very well happened, I remember that we were not afraid to just stop everything and say, okay, now we have to face that problem. And BioFriction will be about that. That was a bold thing to do. As you can imagine, from the perspective of the economy and the administration of a project, that is a huge thing. So I also want to acknowledge the work of Ludovic and Michelin, that it's doing the crazy job of trying to make sense or reorganize the whole thing in terms of the admin of the project. I mean, we cannot stress enough how big an endeavor this is. And yeah, and a lot of suffering, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of discussions. But I think that it's fair to say, and I know in a way this is very capitalistic, that idea of, okay, no, let's continue doing things. I mean, I know that this is, I mean, we should be careful with the idea of, okay, we continue no matter what, because of course we also have the right to stop. Say, okay, this is a very, very serious crisis. Why don't we stop? But on the other hand, we have the responsibility to keep working so artists, researchers can keep working and are not just in a standby situation for years. So yes, I think it's fair to say that that very important idea in the beginning, it proved very useful in the development of the project.
Eric, please.
Yeah, actually, do you hear me? Hi. Yeah, I actually now can just continue from my colleagues, and basically because this conceptual I think link was so strong, and there was also, of course, there was the necessity and the responsibility. We actually quickly went online, and that was a really great experience, like from the project itself, that this can happen, that basically all pull together here, but also that we actually not only kind of fulfilling some kind of necessities, but I think that we were really kind of able to engage our artists, the theorists we are working with, and actually we're able to produce meaningful content. And some of this content also then ended up in the Arnodes issue. But it also showed like two things, I think, that on the one hand, a good thing, that it is possible, that it was all of a sudden possible to reach or to get competence without basically having to travel, without having to spend, I don't know, like a week in another country, which of course is great as well. But all of a sudden it was possible to have that at hand. But of course, what is missing, and this we shouldn't forget, is the cultural exchange, which is not able to happen. And I think from this, we really suffered a lot. Of course, we kind of try to overcome it and hope that we could kind of compensate for that by our involvement. but it really proves also that we are living in a very cultural diverse Europe still, and that this mobility and this exchange is really something of importance which cannot be compensated by online presence.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I guess that you learn quite a lot of things now through those different modes of collaboration that you had to invent or to evolve from the starting point where everything, the origin where everything was started. No? But I guess that you learn. There's this reflection. What did you learn from this as an organization, as partners, as facilitators, as artists through this process? And also, what though all those things that you have learned, in which sense do you think that they will remain somehow in the context, and how? Because there are changes regarding the time that you have also talked about in the special issue, but also other questions that are there, the agencies that are involved, and also, well, many other things that are related with that. No? So how, in which sense, those things that you have learned will keep on staying there and will transform permanently, or it will be just one step aside, let's say. So that, if you could tell us a little bit more about that, that would be great.
Should I start, or maybe the institutions? So, yeah, well, it's a difficult question, because I would say, I mean, I would like to stress that one thing is to, what you have learned, and the other, or another question, or a quite different question is, what have you been forced to learn? Because it's different, no? Learning from curiosity, or having been forced to learn some things precisely due to the situation, no? Due to the pandemic. So in general terms, I would say that we've learned a lot of things. Of course, to re-articulate activities, how to re-articulate activities without having, a kind of a disarticulation of contents within the activities. That's a super difficult thing to do, and to rethink and to re-articulate. But as Eric was mentioning before, I think that, for example, within the lockdown, the first months of the lockdown, we decided to articulate these working groups that a couple of them has published 2 articles in the Arnodes, in this special issue. So that gave us the opportunity to have, some different places, some different groups where to meet, where to discuss, where to share, even, like concerns, bioethical concerns, biopolitical concerns, but also, like doubts. So it was a good opportunity, as also Luis was mentioning before, in order to, to put on practice, if you want to say so, this previous conception of BioFriction, about the importance of sharing questions such as who has access to participate in the knowledge making, no? In this case, related to, for example, biotechnologies, biomedicine, no? And for us, it was a really, let's say, good, at least challenging or exciting opportunity. I mean, when I say exciting, of course, taking into account all the, like inherent problems of the situation, no? But in order to share some critical reflections and ideas on, like this pandemic is not just an epidemiological crisis, but also a crisis in terms of sovereignty, no? Who have access to knowledge, to technologies, mainly because within the context of BioFriction that has been conceived from a trans-Hac feminist perspective that is related to, this political and ethical commitment of hacking with care, of opening up this, or at least try to open up these black boxes, and also, trying to, and I want to remark and to highlight this, trying to, at least trying, but of course it's not enough, trying to decolonize technologies as well. And when I say technologies, I'm referring also to language as a technology, and it's really difficult to do so. It's been a great opportunity in order to have these critical spaces that in maybe we thought that we never have this opportunity to do it online, and it worked. So in that sense, I think that was a kind of an important thing that we learned all together. And on the other way, let's say that I would say that in general terms, for example, even beyond the boundaries of BioFriction, I think that in the Western, societies, we have learned something that it's been pretty present to the migrant racialized communities. We've learned the consequences of mobility as a fiction and its biopolitical and necropolitical consequences. So I think that that's something that we've learned right now. So I hope that at least we try to be committed to this learning and its political consequences as well.
Do you want to add something else to that? Luis, Eric, or Anushka?
Maybe I can add, and it's related with what Laura was commenting now. The project was inserted in the context of trans-Hac feminist practices, and it was also something new for me to be discussing this kind of topics with them. And why I'm saying that is because soonly the words health and the words care came into the discussions, and I want also to thank Hangar, that are collective in residence in the wet lab, because they gave us very good clues to that, and we have exchanged a lot our points of view. And why I'm saying that is because in the context of the wet lab, we realized that it was important to establish the way we were taking care of each other and the way we wanted to interact in terms of scientists, in terms of the people who were in this place. And I think that is something also to be considered when collectives that have their own ideas, they have their own authorities, have to interact each other. So I think that it's something that we should think if we want to implement this kind of interaction in free and open way. So I'm thinking about caring because it's something that was associated directly with the idea of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I view your question, Pau, as a twofold question. I mean, have we learned something? I think that Laura put that very clearly. I mean, yeah, we have been forced to learn some things, and what you learn by force, it has a different impact on you. I mean, I think in my generation we are not very used to dogmatic schooling, and I think we have learned that the bad way. No. But I mean, will some of the things we have learned stay with us? I would love to say yes. I'm a bit pessimistic. I don't think that nothing of this will. I mean, and the proof is that, well, just when the day one bar is open, we all go there. So, I mean, we have the urge to go back to what we call normal, and I think this is an impulse that it's very difficult to control. But some things have emerged, some things that were already, I mean, I think we have learned that we know less than we thought. I think we have learned that we are quite, how to say that? I mean, we have the theory sickness. We are sick of theory, meaning that we know too much theory and we are very good at talking. But then when things are fucked up, the theory, I mean, it's like, I don't know, for instance, the group of people we have shared the lockdown with, well, we have found ourselves in a back to your traditional family model. Of course, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, that has, I mean, perhaps we thought that we lived in another kind of relation that were more open, more, but in the end, you're in a lockdown in your house. You say, okay, we perhaps are not that apart, that over some traditional ways of establishing links amongst us. I mean, it's very interesting to think what the pandemic has done to friendships. It's very, very interesting what the pandemic has done to love relationships, to sex relationships. It's very, very interesting to reflect on that. And yeah, so I'm not very optimistic. But, and another very, very interesting thing that we have been forced to learn, or to learn at least to come to terms with, it's another relation to science. I think this is something that would be so interesting to have more time to reflect on. I mean, because, I mean, there is a comfort, there is a trust in science. There is that idea that, okay, please, science, do your thing and solve this thing. I mean, that very, in a way, it was a bit stupid that applauding I mean, I don't think that applauding is but it was nice that the collective acknowledgement of the role of science in a very difficult crisis. So it's interesting, for instance, and Eric, you said that before, that, well, we see art as hacking and critical practice. How you do that when boundaries are important? When science tells you that boundaries, distance, separations are important, but are important in order to care, in order to be careful, in order to be together. I mean, if I don't respect the distance, I am being irresponsible in terms of my fellow citizens. So that is very, very important. How can you be transgressive when we collectively acknowledge the importance of boundaries? And I think this is a very good starting point to get another art-science relation in which we come together in another way and we do not oppose in the way we used to do.
That's a very interesting point about the boundaries and the affects, let's say. Eric, would you add a little bit more about what we are talking here?
Yeah, I could say a few words. What have we learned I think that within BioFriction, this question resonates into a very privileged position. So, and I think it was discussed already, but I think what makes this question really interesting is when we question who is the we in your question, and if we scale it up planetary. So what have we learned when we recognize the pandemic as a symptom of a planetary crisis? Did now this experience equip us actually to work with something which is probably much more pressing than the immediate pandemic, something which is really difficult because it's something which is really slow, it's something which doesn't affect us as immediately as the pandemic does, but which surely but slowly will have an impact on all of our lives. So here the question of the we gets into a kind of a complete different perspective. And I can't answer that. And I see that as a problem.
Thank you. Okay, so we have learned confinement, no, also politics of fear, no, but this is not something new. This is something that many many theorists and also artists and also from different places and different perspectives they have dealt with that, no? But we have been more than ever with to this politics of fear, no? And but we also we need to move on, no? And we are lifting away from this crisis mode, let's say, and so I guess that since we have experienced this politics of confinement, politics of fear, which will be the next steps from now on, and how does these changes in relation with time and agencies and all those political actors that are involved in the everyday life, which will be those next steps, let's say, that we need to focus on. If you could tell us a little bit more about that, because well, several articles also dealt with that in relation with also we need to understand that we are when we say I, we may say we are like a biome, and there was this someone that was saying this question about that this fact, no, that how much this virus is going to affect our genome in some way. It's going to adapt, and we're going to incorporate that. There are some studies that already are dealing with that, and so.
Well, yeah, I mean, crucial questions and really difficult ones. I have no answer, but I would like to stress, to remark a couple of things regarding the politics of fear. Of course, that's at least one thing to bear in mind regarding the politics of fear, and is on one hand, you know, the use of discourses and the articulation of discourses in terms of fear and referring to the virus as an enemy to defeat. No, so the other as an agent of possible contagion, so a kind of an enemy. And at the same time, how this politics of fear, together with neoliberal articulation of knowledge production and, you know, and the conception of knowledge as a private product has, let's say, give us a kind of what I could call a global shame that is in a context of pandemic a vaccine is not a common good, is a private product. So I think that it's quite related to the politics of fear and how can politics of fear operate, and some quite complicated issues regarding politics. But and I think that it's important to stress this, because when we are thinking on this kind of possibility of moving on, or kind of it seems that might be an end soon. For whom? No, again, with going back to what Eric was mentioning before, this who is allowed to be part of this we, and even referring to the human ones, no? And we've seen, and we are seeing some, let's say, controversial ways of dealing with pandemic and vaccines, for example, I don't know, a quite problematic way of doing in political terms, such as the Zionist state of Israel, and kind of articulating this in a way, kind of apartheid, bio-apartheid, no? So this question of who is allowed to be part, who is privileged enough to be considered part of this we, I think that it's a crucial question, no? That in a way it's also, present in this issue, and also, like pointing out like quite conceptual and practical questions regarding agents and agencies, no? And I think that one of the things that are really, really important, at least in this issue, is to this kind of critical analysis that we can find in some different articles, I would say in the majority of them, regarding different possible relationships to different agents. So, these different possible relationships between human and non-human agencies. And yeah, I think that that's enough for now.
Maybe I can add something at this idea, is that is the concept of disease. And in this case, it was an infectious disease. And I did my postdoc in the end of the 90s at the Institut Pasteur. My boss at that time was the medical director of the hospital. And he was quite frustrated to find budgets for these kinds of diseases, because at that time, other kinds of diseases such as cancer or neurodegenerative diseases were on the front line. And he had difficulties also to convince the students at the medical school to be engaged in the study of this kind of diseases, because students saw these diseases and as all diseases. And in fact, the disease during centuries has been seen as an external agent that invades our bodies, because we have a modern view of what is a disease in our countries, of course, because in other regions of the world, as we have mentioned, the classical conception of disease is still there. So when we think about disease in our modern countries, we think about genetics, and also we think about an individual responsibility on our health. If we smoke, what we eat, if we do sports. And I think that finally we are coming back to again to the vision of a disease as it has been for many centuries, no? Mm-hmm. So, yes, that's...
For me, the question of politics of fear is fascinating, and it's a central point of. I mean, it's fear. It's a very advanced technology. I mean, it's a thing that is autonomous, that spreads all around, that lasts for a very long time. I mean, fear. It's an awful technology. And it's like, for instance, religion has developed all over the history an expertise in the fear as a technology of control. No? God is watching you. That is, I mean, how can internet be better than that? I mean, no matter what, no matter how alone you are, no matter if you do not confess that to yourself, but this thing is watching you and it's willing to punish you. I think it's very interesting when I'm really interested in that thing of making sense of what's going on. I think we have no idea what's going on. And it was very, very interesting when you talk to doctors and that idea that we did not really know almost nothing about that disease and how it should be. It's very interesting, the idea that we have no clue. Now we have some clue. And in this context, when you try to make sense of what's going on, it's very interesting to ask ourselves, what are you afraid of? What's that it's scaring you? And depending on the answer, I mean, depending on the, I mean, I don't know. I mean, now we have, this is interesting. Now we have fascist parties in our parliament. This is new. I mean, it's not that fascism was over, but now it's explicit. And so we have those fascists, and I think it's important to call them fascists, not far right, because it's another thing. It's not that they are very far in the right, they are fascists. And it's very interesting, and basically they say that we should be afraid of the Chinese. That's what they say. Okay, I get it. That's what you are afraid of. In the end, it's very interesting. Are we afraid of the virus? Who or what is the virus? Is a virus a living thing? I think, I mean, I have no idea, but I think the answer is in a way yes, in a way not. And when you read the news about that virus, that it's so mean with us, and why? And it's very interesting because it seems to be intelligent. It's like it reacts and it's very bad. So again, who is acting, who is responsible, who is thinking? Because when I read just the newspapers, I have the impression that the virus is thinking. And it seems to me that it's quite intelligent, reacts to different situations in a very bright way. So, and in the end, for me, it's again the question of the we. Who is it? I mean, I think that we, I mean, what are you afraid of? You know, in the end, I'm afraid of myself. I'm afraid of the collective I am part of and the way we think and what we call intelligence. And in the end, that responsibility, perhaps it's not only human, thinking it's not only human. I don't know. It's for me that the perspective of fear, it's very, very useful to try to make sense. And it's okay to be scared, I think. No, and it's sometimes the sensible thing to do. I don't know. Yeah.
Thanks, Luis. And then Eric, now it's your turn if you want to say something.
Yeah, thank you. I want to respond maybe by coming again to another question. One which I think is relevant for us as artists, and picking up on the fear here. Fear motivates us to look for a safe space, no? And at the moment, I think that the fear the pandemic produces leads to a longing for what was before the pandemic, a longing to go back to normal. But also, like, I think many of those who want to go back to normal are just not aware that this normal has been violent for many humans and non-humans alike, as also one of the articles in the publication is stating. So my question would be now, like, would it be within our reach through the things we do to actually reach those who are not aware of that, and by that are somehow able to kind of contribute or participate in using the crisis as a starting point for something? Because we could see now something which we haven't seen before. We could see that nearly all countries responded to COVID, not in concert and not in synchron. Otherwise, we probably would be in a better place already. But something like this on a global scale was not visible before. So actually, that should show us a potential which is there. But how can we make use of it? And would there be also a way for artists to participate in that, to create awareness for those who actually suffer from normality?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So I guess this is the last question. Then we will move forward to the questions of the audience and also the streaming one. So I guess that we moved from the first response. No, you know, the title of your article was first response. To the second response, but we are moving to a third, fourth, and whatever. So we are adapting to the ever-going, changing circumstances that are really changing fast. And from first wave, second wave, third wave, we have lost the count of the waves. But we have vaccines, let's say, how it evolves and everything. So. And some scientists are also pointing to this idea of the possibility of a deep future of the virus as part of the human genome. And this would make us see how it evolves and explore how the virus will impact human evolutions. This is something we are quite soon to reflect on that. But I guess that it could be a possibility. But also we are stuck in the middle right now. What we have to deal with is the huge thing that you already have said, talked about. This is the politics of care, the caring of each other, the caring of our surrounding, of our environment, caring of our beloved one, of elder people, which are there. This is a huge, I mean, this was not new. I mean, the politics of care was a really urgent subject, but within this context, this has really put an effort on that, and it has made the special intensive aspect, no? With the children, with the elder, with the patients, the people in the hospitals and whatever. No? So is this the place where the arts and science connections could lead us to the space of imagination within the art and science community, with this imagination space where could help could play a key role in these problems and these solutions that we have to deal in this ever-changing uncertainty and situation of global crisis. Let us think about that, and with this final question, we will move to the questions from the audience, and then we will. So let's put some hope and so.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, no. I mean, I was just thinking that of course one thing is fear, and a different thing is politics of fear and its consequences. So bearing that in mind, I would say that regarding your question, for example, with this possibility of a deep future of the virus as a part of the human genome. Well, I mean, if we rearticulate this lemma, slogan, commitment statement by some biohacking communities and nodes such as Hac Te, and this poster of "We've been always biohackers," I would ask, we've been always entangled with virus, and they are the condition of possibility of our existence, right, as an species. So yeah, I would say that we should, put attention on this kind of entanglements and its political and ethical, ontological, epistemological consequences, and to take this as a kind of opportunity. And of course, yes, we are pretty aware that to take a crisis as an opportunity, we have to be privileged enough not to take it as an opportunity, but at least the ones who are here, we are privileged enough. So that means that also we have some different responsibilities, or at least some different degrees in terms of responsibility. So in order to try to answer to your question on imagination and if this is a place where the imagination of the art and sciences, both in plural connections, play the key role, I would say that I hope so. I hope that these hybrid practices, these interconnections, these interruptions at the same time, at least I hope that at least some of these entanglements that are happening within BioFriction can open up new possibilities, not just to help to articulate the politics of care, but the politics of interdependence. So in that sense, I hope that also within this Hac Te, you have the opportunity to work together and to remark the importance of public research and to understand knowledge as a common good, not just as a private product in terms of cognitive capitalism. That would be my wish, desire, and why not hope.
Yeah. Go on.
I think in a way we go back to the beginning with that last question. I don't know. I have no idea. What I try to think, if I do believe that art, technology, and science are meant to establish another kind of relationship, and that the crisis should push us in that direction. I'm convinced of that. And the way I try to think of that, it's with the idea of balance. I think in the context of BioFriction, I have learned, my personal experience, I have learned another concept of balance. And this is a key concept to get to make sense of things. I mean, for instance, it's interesting in the context of science, try to understand when things get messy, when things get dirty. So my relation to science, as you know, is through mathematics. Mathematics is not really a science, it's a language. But mathematics, how mathematics get dirty, it's mainly through computing. I mean, because of course, mathematics are a clean, abstract thing. But when you mess with computers, when you mess with code, things can get really ugly and dirty. And then we learn from that. And that's where I try to get my hands dirty, So I have no clue about biology, but I have learned through BioFriction when things get messy in biology. And what was a surprise for me, please correct me if I say something really stupid, but what I learned from me that in biology, things would really get really messy when they are more normal. I mean, what was, meaning what? When they are, I mean, what was a revealing experience for me for that idea that the most dangerous thing you can do is take something out of your body. I said, but why? I mean, this is just my body. I mean, how dangerous can I be? And I remember in the very context of the wet lab and in the very context of BioFriction, you people that know explaining to me, well, because the human body is in balance and you have no idea what you have in your saliva. So if you take that out of balance, something really dangerous might happen. And that struck me as because I thought that dangerous things were very particular substances that were in very exceptional situations. So, and that idea of balance, I think it's a key together with the idea of fear, together with a lot of things we discussed on. It's a key tool to know how to proceed. And I want to stress the idea that another balance between art, technology, and science is required. And I think we have the responsibility to look together, to research together for that balance. And it's very interesting to know what is to be out of balance when things get messy and dirty and stop to make sense. Because in the end, I mean, the modern era, it's over. Renaissance is over. So the idea, the whole concept of progress is over. The whole concept of knowledge. I think I've succeeded to provoke you, so now you have something to say?
Well,
yes.
Yes. No, I think that what you were talking about, this balance, it's what I will say the word ecosystems, no? And in this process of exchanging our points of view, now I was thinking, no, when you were talking about Messi and all these things, in our practice, and because we are urged to have a production, the concept of failure is very difficult to manage. So for me, being in a new context allow me to have time to explore, to experiment, and to play. Because the urgency and the productivity determines a lot the way you engage yourself in the process of this knowledge. So we discuss also the fact that during the pandemics, in a way, we have time. We could be also more or less relaxed to face the problems. There is also the concept. But yes, regarding this aspect you were saying about Messi, I remember that I was trying to see reproducibility and some artists were looking at the exceptionality. So for instance, I have with Zoe and Magdalena, they were looking precisely what was messed up. And I was looking at the other side of the experiment. So I agree. The way, the gaze on the things and the way you proceed and the way you are trained to look at is really important to engage this kind of interactions, yes. I don't know whether I have answered your point.
Yeah, okay, so Eric, it's your turn if you want to say something about it. And we have 2 more questions here waiting for us, so. with
Yeah,
your...
I think that imagination here is a keyword. I mean, we should also not kind of overrate our own kind of possibilities of engagement. But I think there is a social contract between the arts and society, as well as there is a social contract with the sciences and society. And if you will, it is based on imagination, and as wild as it can get. What we really have to kind of, I think, take care of also ourselves is what we basically promise, and where we basically also kind of, yeah, overstep our capacities. And I think that at the moment there is this crucial point, because I see a lot of kind of pressure towards the arts to kind of contribute to society in a way that maybe this imagination kind of is turned into innovation and then commodified. So I think that we should be, yeah, just careful here how we act ourselves out.
Okay, thank you. So, well, we are running a little bit late, but I guess that we just have a couple of questions in here in the streaming. One of those questions is made by Josep Planell-Stein. This is the principal of the Open University of Catalonia. So he's watching us through the streaming. So he asks this question. Let me translate it to you. Okay, Alessandro Barico interprets the pandemic as a mythical creature, much more complex than the sanitary emergency. While science tries to find solutions to the illness, to the disease, but can the arts reinterpret that myth? And we need to understand myth here, not just as a negationist option of that, but also as a mental construction. Let's say this is in relation with this pandemic. We can understand. Let me read again. Alessandro Barico interprets pandemics as a mythical creature, much more complex than the sanitary emergency, while science tries to find a solution with the illness. No? So the question is, but can the arts reinterpret that myth? Can you interpret the myth? What's this? How could be reinterpret the myth in this sense?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I don't know this conception by Alessandro Barico of this, of pandemic as a mythical creature. But on the question if arts can interpret, how it's called? Yeah, interpret the myth. I would say that maybe I have no answer, and of course I don't have an answer in general terms on the arts or in the name of the arts, that maybe it's even worse. But I would say that at least the happening within BioFriction, I'm pretty sure that maybe they will try to, or they are trying in a way to subvert the myth. But not just this kind of conception of pandemic as a mythical creature, but how myths operates everywhere in the articulation of, for example, hegemonic narratives and its consequences. So I would say that.
Yeah, I remember in one of the articles of the Arnodes issue that I'm sorry that now I am not able to remind which one of them, but we can provide that information later. I remember that idea that not everyone is entitled to have a crisis. I mean, to say that this is a crisis involves some amount of power. And Eric was referring earlier to the violence of normality. I mean, and the slow violence, the everyday violence that is suffered by people that is not entitled to have a crisis. They are just in the wrong side of history or whatever. They don't even have the right to say, hey, this is a crisis. I don't have the chance to live that idea of a normal life that we are. So, yeah, I know that, I mean, perhaps it's not a radical idea, but I think it's so important, the idea of reinterpret, of reread or reconsider or make sense in another way of the situations. I think, yes, this is a role, a key role of the arts, to make sense, to read things in a different way. Of course, science does too, but I think in a more complex way. So the very direct reconsidering of the situation is something that art is very powerful in doing. So I think, yeah, a rereading of the myth, a reconsideration. I think it would be so nice to be able to contribute to that. Yeah.
Thank Eric.
Yeah, I could answer. I also cannot answer for the arts, but I can answer as an artist. And I would be very suspicious if somebody is bringing a myth to me of an obscure entity which depicts basically this case. I would basically just try to dismantle this. And I think that to see actually what is behind there, like what is why is there a necessity to make a myth out of something which is actually transparent in what it is, yeah, a symptom. And so this would be my answer. Probably I would try it like that.
Okay, thanks. I don't know if there are more questions on site in here. I don't see, we cannot see from here because we have strong light.
We could switch on the light, perhaps. To make
I don't know
things...
if there's someone here. They should yell at us, otherwise we will not see them. Okay. Okay, so let us. There's just one last question, but this is not a question, it's more a commentary from Margarita Perver. And yeah, maybe we should finish with this question and then we will move on, okay, because we are just on time. Yeah, we said we were going to finish now, okay. Okay, so this is Margarita Perver that's asked a question. My question, care, fear, ecological frame, and vulnerabilities. We need transversal cooperations to deal with them and new words to express such complexity. Which words do you take with you from this experience, BioFriction? Which words do you take with you? This is, I will read the whole thing. Okay, thanks to all panelists for the intellectual prompts. Looking back, BioFriction feels like something legendary creature somehow, but very real. No? Okay, so my question, okay, this has changed, but the question was about these new words that you will take with you within this context of BioFriction. And we're gonna move from that. We're gonna finish with this, yeah? So we will end with that. These are your last words. No, I mean, all of you.
Okay. So I'm not so sure about new words because they are not new, But I would say the situated conception and, let's say, translation in practical terms of these words, what means their meanings. I would say that maybe interdependence would be one of them, because it's related to transversality, to also to political commitment, and even, you know, this response hyphen abilities, not just with human, but with some, no, a multiplicity of non-human agents as well. So if I have to choose in a way, let's say a word, maybe I would say interdependence.
In my case, and because of my experiences, I will say processes of co-learning, definitively.
I think this question, I'm sorry, it's really unfair. I mean, it's difficult to, I don't know, if I have to say a word, I would say interface. That would be a word that I think it's, but I don't know, I reject that. I mean, I kindly reject the question. I mean, it's so difficult to choose a word or a group of words. Eric, you finish this thing.
Yeah, I have no word. But I'm really interested in basically thinking about the words we have and deconstruct them. And like there is always the urge to kind of define a word so that we know what we are talking about. But at the same time, I think there is also a real joy in the plasticity of the words we are using, and to explore that plasticity. I think maybe my word is plasticity. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot with this. So with these final words, we need to finish also, because we are just on time, 5 minutes late. That's okay. I mean, thanks a lot for all of you for all your sharing your ideas, your time with us, and thanks also to all those that have been able to be here on site, and those that are also looking at us through the streaming services. No, so this is the first one of many of activities that we will propose for you in the next months in the context of this Hac Te, which is this new hub that we are developing right now, and we would love to follow from you. And since then, you are able to read the articles that if you haven't read them, and to get deep in those questions through reading those articles, and also to get in contact with us if you wish. So many thanks, and have a good night. Thank you.